First of all, partnerships, research partnerships have been my modus operandi since I started my lab. I've always engaged in collaborative research because that's what gives me the biggest buzz. I am not a jack of all trades. I have very specific expertise and that will help other people, but I also need those other people to provide me with their expertise. So I think basic science, fundamental science is absolutely dependent on collaborative partnerships. That becomes doubly so or exponentially so when you talk about things as complicated as developing a drug in time. You need those partnerships to exist because not everybody can do all of these things. So I think it's absolutely essential. What you then need is the means to do it. So financial means, environmental means, arenas where people can come together. And I think that's really critical. Getting people, the right people in a room to talk to each other does huge things. So I run a center, the Center for Reproductive Genomics at Cornell University, and it's a joint center between the Ithaca campus, we're out in the middle of nowhere, and the Weill Cornell Medical College in New York City. Before I started that, people said, there's no way, they're 300 miles away, there's no way you'll get these collaborations going. You just need to put the right people in the same room together and the magic happens. And now we are one of maybe 3 or 4 centers between the 2 campuses, because Cornell has recognized that if you make the conditions right and if you make resources available, they will come. And I think it really works beautifully. In fact, it's really exciting. Another venture that I'm part of as part of my center, we have an annual symposium. And last year, Kyle Orwig from Pittsburgh, who also has a center, said, well, I'd really like to team up with you for your symposium. I've invited his center several times to our annual symposium. So last year, our annual symposium was joint with them. It was down in Pittsburgh, so we all got on a bus and went down to Pittsburgh for a couple of days. And this year, they all got on a bus and came up to Ithaca, and we actually got the Penn group to join us as well. And it was the most fabulous symposium ever because you get people with the right sense and the right energy together and just incredible things happen. And it's not just faculty, it's trainees and postdocs and all sorts of people. That really excites me. I mean, that's what's really important, getting these people together to talk and chat and giving them the right environment to do that. And then it's easy, I think, of you. So the reason I got into meiosis, I was not a meiosis person, is the genes I work on are DNA repair genes, the main genes I work on. And there was a group at Albert Einstein College where I started my lab. I was a postdoc there at the time. And they came to our lab and they said, we have knocked out all the genes involved in this specific type of DNA repair because it's involved in colon cancer. It was a colon cancer lab. And we are competing with another group, so we're in a race to get these papers published, but we know these genes are also involved in meiosis. And we know that you're the only reproductive biology lab on campus. I had no clue how to study meiosis. And so I went to the library and I read up on it and got involved in that way. And then when we published the first paper, they said, well, we've got 12 other genes we're going to knock out. They're all involved in meiosis. We don't care about meiosis, but we want someone to do it. So that's the most easy collaboration. You have one mouse mutant and you share it for different purposes, right? Other ways can work in different formats. So for example, the work I'm doing on meiotic entry, it's taking these cell culture methods, these really complicated, really contentious, controversial cell culture methods, and it's trying to propel these cells in a dish to go into meiosis. Now, a lot of labs have published awful papers on this and have claimed that they've made sperm grow in a dish and they've made mice, and nobody believes them. So Kyle Orwig again and Amanda Clark, who was here yesterday, 2 of the big leaders in the field, say it's all rubbish. None of it works. And I showed Kyle some of my meiotic entry data this morning in my seminar, and afterwards he said, well, this is the problem, Paula. We've never had a meiosis person actually do it. So I'm not a spermatogonial stem cell person or a spermatogonial person who's trying to culture these things, but I know the next step So he said it just is a no-brainer. We need you for the next step. And it seems silly that you need one person for part A and one person for part B, but that's how specialized these processes are. And I think that the only, I need them to tell me all the things they've learned so I can get these things going, and then I can do the next step, and then hopefully someone else will do the step after that, and so forth. So these collaborations are just a no-brainer. Another area is, in order to start these cultures, I needed to know the exact genetic profile of these cells. And so I think I was telling you, there's this method called Singlecell RNA Seek. Very complicated, requires huge computational expertise. We published one of the very first papers of single-cell RNA Seek in testicular germ cells just a month ago. We couldn't have done it without computational biologists and people who are experts in this area. It's so new that the algorithms are just being developed on the fly, and there's no way my lab could do this stuff. So science will be stifled unless you have these collaborations, and I think that something as mammoth as contraceptive development, speaks to that hugely. We've sought cheap, affordable contraception for all people for so long. I just can't imagine anyone working in this area who would feel, I want to make money out of this. I want to develop this because I want my name on a drug. I mean, I just don't, it's not like heart disease or diabetes or, it's not people desperate to make their big fortune. I mean, there's probably people like that, but certainly I'm not one of them. And certainly I don't think the prize in male contraception is big enough for that sort of person, right? I mean, heart disease, you could make millions theoretically, I guess, but male contraception is not going to be that thing. It's going to be something that helps humanity, but hopefully it's not going to be something that makes fortunes for people. Well, I think there are two ways to think about it. There is the slow, steady plodding that will get us there in the end. There's also the idea that you need to get the right people in the room, the sort of innovators who could not individually, but collectively take us to the next level in a huge leap. Because if you get people together and talk, real magic can happen, right? And so then you go from this slow incremental progress to maybe a leap that wouldn't have come about by one person thinking in his or her lab all by themselves. So that's the hope, is that with little amounts of funding, you can at least foster and engender these collaborations, and that leads to huge things. One hopes.